Brought to you by 1AAuto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet.
Hi, I'm Don from 1A Auto. I hope this how-to video helps you out. And the next time you need a part for your vehicle, think of 1AAuto.com. Thanks.
In this video, we're going to show you how to replace a front axle on this 2004 Ford F-150. Pretty much the same for any 2004 to 2010. This is a four-wheel drive. You're going to need new axles from 1AAuto.com. We show you the right-hand or passenger side axle. The left-hand driver side axle is the same procedure. You'll also need jack and jack stands, pry bar, pliers, 13, 24, and 30 millimeter sockets, a ratchet and a breaker bar, a pipe for some leverage, 12 millimeter 12-point socket, and ratchet and a torque wrench. Start out, raise and support the vehicle securely, and then remove your center cap.
And we're going to remove the cap on the end of the hub. And with a 13 millimeter socket, I'm going to remove the nut on the end of the axle. Where the end of your CV joint meets the solid axle, there's going to be 6 12.12 millimeter bolts. So I'm using a 12-point socket to remove those.
Okay, and we're just going to do some fast forwarding here, and you can basically hold on to the tire, have an assistant, or you could have somebody hold the brakes for the vehicle and loosen up those bolts and remove them.
I'm going to remove the bolt with a 30 millimeter socket that holds in the lower part of the strut assembly so that we can get more room to pull the CV shaft out.
And I'm going to fast forward here as we remove that nut and bolt. Once you get the nut loosened up, you can tap it with a hammer a few times, make sure that the bolt is loose and will come out.
I'm going to use a pry bar and pry out the lower end of the strut assembly from the lower control arm. While I was prying on the lower part of the strut assembly, I was able to pull the CV shaft past this. I'm going to pull the shaft out.
Okay, we'll just speed it up here. Work the axle out, and then you actually have to work the lower strut mount out. We see we'll use a pry bar and get that moved out of the way, and then the axle comes right out.
Sliding the CV joint back into place. Now with the wheel all the way turned out, I'm going to go ahead and re-secure where the strut goes into the lower control arm.
And once you get that back in place, use the bolt, or you can also use a screwdriver or a line-up tool. Get the hole to line up, get the bolt through, put the nut on the back side, and then tighten it up. And you want to tighten that bolt up to about 95 to 100 foot-pounds.
And I'm going to line up the holes on the CV shaft with the solid axle and reinstall the 12 millimeter 12-point bolts.
Okay, and once again, we'll fast forward here. Reinstall the bolts first by hand. Make sure they're turning in there and you're not cross-threading any of the bolts. And then tighten them up kind of preliminarily. And then what you want to do is kind of use a cross pattern. Tighten one up, then tighten, and you want to tighten them to about 25 foot-pounds. Tighten one up, then go to the opposite one, tighten that one up, and just kind of keep with that pattern until they're all tight.
Reinstalling the 13 millimeter nut on the end of the axle, CV shaft. Reinstall the cap. And align your center hub cover, the pin here and the hole there.
We hope this helps you out. Brought to you by www.oneauto.com, your source for quality replacement parts and the best service on the internet. Please feel free to call us toll-free 888-844-3393. We're the company that's here for you on the internet and in person.